What's up, guys? Thanks for coming back to the pod. Um, I'm taking kind of a break to kind of do an update. The area I'm in is still good. Um, with the exception of, the smoke and the wind has picked up. I'm literally looking at it through the window. It's like the trees are kind of blowing around again, and it's like that's not uncommon, but Santa Ana winds are not uncommon. It's like it always happens, multiple times a year, at least a few times a year. But yeah, I wanted to talk about a little bit of stuff, some stuff about if you want to volunteer for things. Um, I think you guys know how I am by now. I try not to just repeat everything that everybody else is saying, so I'm probably not going to be talking too much about things that everybody else is saying. Maybe a few things. I don't really know. I haven't really. I'm literally writing it down as I'm speaking now. I wasn't really gonna record today because I wanted to do it outside, and um, luckily the air quality in my place is pretty decent. I leave my bathroom door open. Not door, but I used to leave the door open, but I leave the window open. Usually, I've closed it a little bit, but we've always had like a mold issue, a moisture mold kind of issue in there. Um, so it's closed. It's open. It's cracked open. Um, it's got a screen, and it's one of those like windows is not like too huge. You know how bathroom windows can be like they're usually smaller than other windows, but we've got like ventilation and I took a quick shower this morning. I know they're saying conserve water, but I was gonna skip it, and I was like, nah, man. Like if I'm sweaty and I wasn't even like doing anything, it's like let me just take care of this, cause yeah, we don't really know if water or power will be shut off. Nobody's really saying that it will, but earlier today they had some of the fires like approaching, but didn't really hit. They were approaching these towers, that I guess they give the signals, and so that the newscasters and a lot of different corporations can broadcast. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, oh man, like if it hits some, because there's already been like some areas, a lot of areas, people I know that don't have power or temporarily haven't had power. So I'm just trying to make sure at least I have everything charged. At least it's backup charged. I am not a disaster preparedness professional, so I don't really have any like insights into exactly what to do. But people are posting a lot of great ideas all over online. But things that come to my mind is definitely, if you have like a backup battery for at least your phone, or whatever you might need, and keep things charged up, keep warm clothing handy, because it's gonna be, it gets cold at night. It gets cold early in the morning. It's like in the 40s where I live. I'm not too far south of LAX, and so it drops down to like the 40s. It's pretty cold, and it's not comfortable at night without any heater on. We don't have central air. We haven't for a while. It kind of broke down, and because of how the weather is out here, we never really fixed it, because we're like, well, what's the point of fixing it, because it's going to cost more money to run it, and we only really run it like a little bit out of the year because it doesn't get that cold. And so we just went back to using space heaters this winter. but it I think our heat went out. Our AC never fully worked. It's just like fan mode kind of. It's kind of like almost like a lukewarm air. That's the best I can describe it. It's not. We don't really use it. It's useless. Um, I mean, it helps with air circulation, but it's not useful as far as like cooling down the place. It makes more sense if we're cooling down to like just open the windows, but we can't really open windows. It's not too hot out here. Our weather's like in the high 60s, but when it drops, it gets cold. So you got to think about things like that. If you do lose power, you don't want to be like cold and uncomfortable. Sleep is going to be important. You want to get your rest. I'm one to talk. I woke up at like 4 something this morning, but I just wrote out the energy, and I eventually knocked out like midday for a little bit, and probably like 30 minutes, maybe less than an hour for sure, but it helped. And then I'm back awake again. But I did try to sleep pretty early. Well, I was online longer than usual. Um, I was online longer than usual. I'm usually not online. Like around 9, I took the melatonin, but then around 10:30, I was still up, and I was like forcing myself to get offline. And I was like, I just wanted to make sure, okay, like, am I gonna go to sleep and make sure everything's okay so I can actually go to sleep. Like, there was nothing that I saw on any of the coverage that was like, that made me feel like, okay, you can't sleep until morning, you know. So I slept, and then I was like, okay, naturally woke up, and the first thing I did, of course, was check the stupid news. Like, I mean, you guys know me. I don't even watch the freaking news. I talk about how much it affects mental health and how unhealthy it is, but this is kind of something I feel like I don't need to watch it all day, obviously, but I need to kind of keep updated because it's kind of close enough and not fully contained enough. And then with I don't know how accurate this is, but people saying that other people are starting fires. I mean, it's hard to really trust what's really happening in media and social media because of AI and all the like fake content that people create. Like, who knows what's real and what's not sometimes. Like, some people were saying that they caught a couple, I guess they're saying like homeless drugged out people, but it's like, how would you know that they're homeless? How would you know that they're drugged out? If you just happen to stumble upon people that you thought started a fire, like, what would make you know that about them? So I usually, I can't help it, but I always have so many questions. Like, I question so many things because I don't really fully believe things sometimes. But also, I wasn't there. I didn't record that footage, so I don't really know. But I think there might be some truth to it, that there might be some people possibly that are, you know, committing arson. And if it's happened even once, other people could do it. Some people just aren't right in their minds, or maybe somebody pays them to do it and like says like, hey, like, if there is some kind of weird conspiracy scheme behind all of this, um, you know, it, people hurting for money, or people who are willing to kind of like waive those, values and waive their compassion to kind of just be like, well, I'll start a fire, and for whatever reason they have in their mind. I mean, you can't like necessarily stop people from doing that. Like, how are you gonna like monitor every single person to make sure they're not doing that on their own, or collaborating with some other scheming person to like do that? Like, you would never know. And like, I'm not so worried about naturally where the fires seem to be going with the wind as far as my own location, but I'm more worried about, that there could be a situation like that somebody could do that, or riots, crime. LA is just known for that, like, we all know. Remember when the Lakers won the championships that one year, and fellow Angelinos decided to try and burn down part of the city and flipping over police cars and stuff, and we won. I mean, it's like, people out here just, there's so many people, and there's a certain population of people that are going to feed into the chaos. And, if people are already outraged and just like teetering on the edge of, you know, their ability to kind of maintain themselves, I mean, I don't know where it comes from. I don't think I really want to open that can of worms right now to try to deeply think about why people why people do those things. But I think, you know, I'm not here to like blame homeless people or to blame people on drugs. I mean, there are probably people who are not homeless that are not homeless or are not on drugs that still do a lot of you know crimes. You know, corporate people, politician type people, like, like they might even have a good financial standing and sobriety and still be committing crimes against humanity. So it's like, it's just, it's I don't want to like single out and target different groups, just because it's kind of sensationalized that, like, oh, like these types of people seem like they could do that. Like, if I'm not seeing it with my own eyes, I don't want to just like label it or like start spreading that, that's the group of people, you know, to be targeting. Um, and yeah, as far as volunteering, I've been, doing some therapy volunteering on Seven Cups. There's a website called Seven Cups. So if it's not therapy. It's more like, chat support for people that are just stressed at the least. Um, I'm checking messages. I can't sit on there all day. I honestly am not like at 110% to a point where I want to be like online all day, like doing stuff like that. But I'll chime in like every hour, every other hour, and just like check messages and respond, to try to like give people some hope and some kind of response to their messages. I'm not providing direct resources. I'm not, you know, I can't help with anything but just, no advice, nothing like that. I'm not a licensed clinician. In California, you can't just like practice therapy. I'm not under supervision because I'm not working at a site where I have a supervisor that's clinically trained and licensed, so I can't provide therapy legally, so I'm not doing that. But it's more of like a peer support type site. So anyone who thinks they would be good at that or can kind of hold space for people. I know it's not like a site where people are necessarily going, like people aren't flooding towards Seven Cups to like get support related to the fires, but um, you know, if you have any kind of training to be able to just like talk to people or just listen to people, and it's only just chatting, it's just a chat feature. It's completely anonymous. They give you like a screen name that means it's like it could be like rollerblade apples 9299 or something. That might be your screen name. Like there's no way to really identify yourself, and you're not really supposed to be asking for social information or anything like that. Um, People on there who are trying to get help on those types of sites, don't get scammed. They're people at these times start taking advantage of people. You might start getting weird messages about insurance, like fire insurance, emails, or housing support emails, or like homelessness emails, or resource. I don't know what kind of messages you might get from certain places, either texts or emails or social media messages. People kind of phishing. Don't get catfished. Don't click on phishing messages. If you didn't search for something and opt into something, and somebody's just reaching you out of the blue, chances are It might not be real. Um, Google things. If somebody says, don't go clicking on like these quick job, quick money kind of things. Some of that stuff, it's really fake, Um, so don't get roped in or sucked into any of that. If you do need the support, don't. I know people get in desperate times. They're gonna click on stuff they think it's gonna help. Um, I mean, I've even been in those situations recently. It wasn't anything serious, but I ordered something. I think December 13th. That I thought was a major clothing company that was just having a sale on Instagram, and one of my friends told me, that's probably not the right link, and I was like, oh shoot, but I already paid like $28 for some clothing, so I was like, well, let me just see, because it has tracking, and then I saw it was weird tracking from China, and I was like, oh no, they're like drop shipping something, and I was like, well, let me see if it shows up. The other day, I found that they said they dropped it off on December 5th, and nothing has come at all. So, you know, I even got roped into something even though I know a lot about it. I just thought, oh, it's a Christmas sale, and clicked it and bought some stuff. But I kind of recognized, you know, that it was too good to be true. But I was like, it was $28, so I'm like, whatever. But I gotta call my bank about that. But um, and I don't really use credit cards because I've heard that if you do use credit cards, you get your money back. But so I don't know if I'll get my money back, but I probably should. It happened to me before with something I purchased when I was under Citibank, but now this isn't Citibank. It's another bank, but I'm pretty sure they'll reverse it. Um, but yeah, don't get roped into something like that. People are really scheming with advertising these days, and if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. You're not gonna get some multi-million-dollar house, in replacement for your house that you lost. You're not gonna just like get that, you know, right away. If somebody sends you like a message like that today or something, I mean, it's my belief that sometimes there are, I think some of these schemy people even infiltrate some of these programs like EBT and Instacart and like 211 and different support sites like that, or they're selling information. They're not supposed to, but it only takes like one person in the work site to be having access to records, and like I think that way because I've used some stuff before, and I have cards that like I don't have like a bunch of debit cards, but like I my um debit accounts, my checking accounts are kind of separated out, so I'm spending money out of certain accounts for certain reasons, and there's certain accounts that I don't really use if I'm not doing a specific type of thing, and then I've used those cards to kind of like either get maybe Instacart or something, and then like maybe it gets delivered to the wrong place, and then you call and then they ask you for your information, and then all of a sudden you've got all this money missing. I've had stuff like that happen, and just the timeline of it was just too, it just seemed too schemy, and it's like, okay, like this, like I got scammed through Instacart. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because it's like, I don't do that much stuff to a point where I can't trace it. Like, it was within probably like 24 to 48 hours of calling Instacart's customer service. Um, I made the mistake of giving them my card number because I thought that I needed to do that. Like, I don't know where in my mind I didn't like catch that, but they're like, oh, let's just confirm your card number, to make sure we refund you all of your money. And I got my money refunded that day, but then like a day or two later, I got a whole, like, all the rest of the money that I had in that account was just like wiped, and I was just like, what the heck, you know? So, um, and yeah, I never got it back either. It was like, I don't know how much, if it was like $300 or $600, I don't remember, but um, it was in the hundreds. It wasn't pleasant, but it was like I only used that card at that time. I only used it for like Instacart, so it's like, you know, somebody got in there, and you know, it must have been after that customer service call. I think that customer service person, you know, took my information and either gave it to someone or sold it to someone or used it themselves, because it showed that somebody was shopping through my Instacart, you know, it showed grocery stores that somebody was shopping through my Instacart, and those were the charges that showed up. But it wasn't anywhere near me, so I'm like, well, I don't really understand, you know, how I could have been there, because I've never even been to that place. But I don't know. But anyways, don't get scammed. Please don't get scammed. Like, if I can get scammed, anybody can get scammed. And I know about this stuff, but it's kind of like there's these people that are so skilled, you know, they're just gonna walk you through something, and you don't think twice about, oh, don't give them that number, or don't, you know, of course you don't give your social out and stuff like that, but it's like some other stuff is just easy to overlook, you know, it's easy to overlook. And, you know, it sucked, but I was like, whatever, it's just cash, you know, but, you know, in times like this, you know, you find a lot more people trying to, like, scheme and scam, because they're getting access to people's information too, through some of these systems that are already set in place. So even though I can say, okay, these places are there set up to help people, I already know that there's already people that, you know, anything that you're putting your information online, on applications, on forms, you know, you'll even notice right whenever you sign up for stuff, you start getting a bunch of spam emails and junk mail and stuff. Like you these places sell your information, so just make sure that if you do get any kind of correspondence going, that it's what you need. Record your calls, record stuff, you know, so that you have proof of what's going on. At least, you know, I don't know if it'll even help, but at least it's something, it's some kind of proof. um, but yeah, don't get scammed. But Seven Cups might have people who can help. There are a lot of scammers on there though, so I almost don't like to even recommend the site anymore. But I don't talk to anybody on there who's from Nigeria or Pakistan or India. It's just, I've found in my own personal experience that on that specific site, I don't think all of the people on there are really trying to help. And I only talk to Americans, and I'm not saying that they're the best ones on the site to talk to, but it's just the only way I can narrow things down. And you know, don't give out your information. They're not supposed to be asking for your Instagram or whatever. They're not supposed to be asking for anything. You know, they're just supposed to be helping you with whatever you're stressed out about. So, and that's not the only site. There's a lot of other there's sites for crisis support. You can Google the sites in your area for crisis support, mental health chat support. Um, you know, access and crisis line for your area, national suicide prevention for, you know, for those phone numbers, for those chat lines. And that's why I say, you know, keep your phone charged. If you have a backup phone, even like an old phone, you know, try to charge those up even, you know, so you can just swap out a SIM card if that, or at least maybe have access to like Wi-Fi if you're near like internet. If your phone is new enough to do that, you know, if it's not that old, but you know, you might want to have something. Um, and you know, there are a lot of people posting about ways that you can help. help out, volunteer, be careful. Don't just send your money all over the place. Some of these places aren't helping, they might be lining their pockets. You want to make sure you kind of vet, where you're sending your funds so it goes directly to the support for the people who are needing it, you know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of like churches and religious and cultural centers are stepping up in LA. Um, I'm gonna see Saturday what's in my area. If there's something I can volunteer with in person in my local region, but I don't really know how that's gonna go. Right, it just kind of depends on the air quality for me. I'm not sure you know, if I'll be able to tolerate like being out of the house for that long. You can probably tell my voice is already like pretty messed up. Um, and uh, like I feel okay, but I just don't want to overdo it, So I'm trying to take it easy enough, but trying to keep a basic routine, at least keep my meals and hydrate and stay clean and stay prepared, you know. Um, I don't know. I guess some uh, I guess some thoughts I had were just some things that kind of came to my mind. I was watching Adam Carolla, excuse me, Adam Carolla, somebody that I grew up listening to. I grew up listening to him on Loveline back when I was in like I don't know, not even high school, and I was happy the other day to find out that they brought Loveline back um, from K Rock. If you're familiar with LA radio stations, K Rock is one of the bigger rock stations, pop rock kind of stations, alternative kind of. They don't really play metal. They'll play like some Metallica. That's about they mostly play chart toppers. Like honestly, like you'll probably only hear like new music and chart toppers unless it's like way after hours or like their morning shows. I kind of like to tune in. I like morning shows, so I kind of like their morning shows. But I used to listen to Loveline when I was younger. They had some interesting, sexual education type of advice because I was raised in a pretty reserved, you know, community of people. So I think I probably learned more listening to that show than I learned from like educators around me, sadly to say, but um, I'd stay up late and just like I had another friend that would listen to it too, and we'd be like, "Did you listen to Loveline last night?" kind of thing. But like we would listen to Loveline on the radio, tune in on your like FM radio, um, and that's what I knew Adam Carolla from. I think that's what I knew him from. And he was, he always had that voice, his like distinct kind of nasally voice, like, and then him and Dr. Drew. But yeah, I saw a post that he put up because I guess he couldn't get to the studio, and he was saying how his place, I don't know if it was damaged or not. I think he didn't really know at that point. But I guess what I'm trying to get to is he was talking about kind of just some of the, I guess, demographics, and that was kind of something that interested me because I know the areas. I know that area. I go to that area. I like that area. The area where the fires unfortunately have like burned through the Palisades and all. I've been on Valentine's dates up there. It's like I go there. I haven't been there like this week or anything, but you know, Hollywood Hills and that kind of area, Runyon Canyon, all those places. As someone raised in the area, I wasn't raised like in that part of LA, but a lot of people in LA go to those places, and I've been to those places, and I plan to go to those places in the future. It's just, I don't know what it's going to be like now, but or anytime soon. But it was something he mentioned was, something that I was thinking, because I was thinking like, you know, and I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not gonna go on some kind of weird like rant, but a lot of these houses are multi-million dollar house. Like LA's property costs a lot. It's not uncommon to have $1 million houses, even in areas that are known to be like, maybe if you call them lower income. The property values are still a lot. You know, there are people who live in Compton and Watts and Inglewood and South Central who have $1 million properties. Like that's not uncommon. You know, um, you know, you find properties that are very high value properties in LA. That's not uncommon. So when you're looking at other houses in other areas that are like 4 million, 5 million, 8 million, $11 million properties, and especially since, property values have even gone up, you know, in recent years, some of these properties were maybe worth half of that, and now in the last few years have gone up. In the last like 4 or 5 years, they might be double what they were even worth before. I mean, people, that's someone's net worth, and people out here, property is definitely an investment out here. um how many times do I rant and rave about the rent prices, and just trying to afford a studio apartment or a one bedroom apartment is already like a pain in the what in LA. So when you think about someone who has figured out a way, or live their life in a way that they could work to a point where they can afford something that's worth that much money in that beautiful of an area, coastal, seaside, these beautiful mansion homes. And Adam Carolla made a point, and he was like, these people are now homeless. They technically meet the definition for homelessness. And I'm like, huh, you know, very true. They do. I mean, I'm not saying you can compare necessarily like someone who's been on Skid Row for a while, who's, living on the streets over there, relying on shelter systems with no access to resources, that doesn't have that kind of net worth or that kind of connection or resource, or people that they know that would probably pitch in like that to help them. Maybe not everybody has that though, I'm pretty sure. And I'm not here to like really compare and like, I mean, it's hard to really have a conversation about it without saying that it's not the same thing, because I know it's not the same exact thing. But I mean, these people still are displaced people. They're still homeless people. They still don't have a house. And on Monday they didn't think they weren't going to have a house, and now they don't have a house. And this is happening right after the holidays, right after people got back from vacation. Maybe some of them haven't even returned yet. And with Americans consumerism and all that, the way people spend in this country, I could just imagine, that a lot of people went all out for Christmas and New Year's. Like, this was the first holiday season we've had in a while that didn't have some weird restrictions of travel, or some weird storms, or some weird thing that was like grounding the planes. As far as I know, it seemed like a relatively smooth holiday season if you compare it to like maybe two winters ago, where the storms were like outrageously crazy, or even before that when we had all these like COVID Christmases and that kind of crap. It was like, people were finally probably maybe getting things kind of a little more stable than the usual, possibly. I mean, the economy's in a different place, everything's in a different place. It's hard to really know, but I'm just thinking that's kind of what I'm believing, that potentially, most of us are kind of just like, okay, we're kind of almost getting back to normal. Of course, gas costs more, groceries cost more, housing costs more, like all of our basics cost more. Um, but, people are just trying to get back to some sort of normalcy. And I think, coming out of the holidays and then a couple days into the new year, and now there's this devastating, disaster that's still going. It's not even fully contained, and people not having water, people not having power. Like, even if they don't lose their home, the people in those areas that don't lose their home, they can't fully functionally use their home unless they have that much backup of generators and water and all that kind of stuff, and the winds have picked up a little bit. I'm even noticing it when I'm looking at the trees outside right now. I'm like, it's definitely windier right now than it was this morning. And I don't even live in an area where the wind is supposed to be picked up too much. I'm I'm right within a path where it seems like the winds are going either south of me or north of me. They're not really coming directly my direction, but it's still definitely windy. I've lived in this area for so long, since maybe about 1999 or something like that. And I've come to this area since probably since about second grade. I've come to this area of LA almost every day. When I was going to school, church, whatever, sports, that kind of thing. And so, I know the same spots that I look at. I know what these trees specifically look like at pretty much any time of day or night, any time of the year. you know, and they're usually, you know, um, they're usually not moving as much as they are right now. And it's definitely still windy. It's just not as bad as it was. Um, like, my windows aren't rattling yet or anything like that, but the wind might also be blowing in opposite directions. So I don't know. And I don't hear the wind howling or anything like that either. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of something I wanted to keep in mind. Is that these people are homeless people. They're maybe not the typical homeless person that you would find in the city. Their stories might not really be like your stereotypical or average kind of story of like a homeless demographic, but you know, um, a lot of these people are going to have PTSD. A lot of these people are going to be depressed. Unfortunately, a lot of these people probably aren't going to want to continue living. That's the reality. You have elderly people too who have worked their whole lives to afford these properties. Veterans, all types of people who have, their properties just gone, their neighbors gone, their support systems in their areas just gone, and like, then the insurance on top of that. Who knows what percentage of these people's houses are going to be rebuilt based on insurance. I already knew that was going to happen, unfortunately. Like, insurance is such a shady business. I was trying to track the footage, the coverage of some of these fires, and I saw, sorry, my mind's kind of blanking. I saw, so two things. I guess the first thing I wanted to track was like the beginning of the stories. So I went back to some of the beginnings of the stories, and I saw how they were talking about the winds. They're preparing Santa Ana winds. It's going to be windy. They were already mentioning potential fire, fire risk, of how risky it is when fires do spark up, how it's so dry. This was already mentioned. This was already mentioned in the news before there were even fires happening. And there are also people saying that, you know, their insurance, I don't know the step by step. If maybe people were calling, you know, to get fire insurance because the wind picking up and they heard that there was a risk, or maybe there were some new, there's got to be some new homeowners within that population of people. I don't know the percentage. Um, some of the properties they were even showing on the news. I saw had for lease signs, you know, for sale signs, like these properties, you know, people were trying to, you know, lease them out or sell them, you know, and people were probably depending on, you know, someone's gonna buy this house, you know, and now it's no longer. And it's like, imagine if that was, if that's, you're like, okay, it's time for me to retire. I've got this, you know, me and my wife and my, you know, adult kids, you know, this is their inheritance. And you know, I'm 78 years old, let me sell this, you know, $5 million property, and then it burns down and you don't have the insurance to cover it, or the insurance denies your claim, or you know, whatever version of the insurance not working out or not having insurance, whatever version that looks like, you know, and you've got nothing, you know, you've got nothing, you know, at that point, unless you've got money and other stuff in other places, you know, you don't have that money, that inheritance for your family isn't there, that nest egg for your retirement isn't there, you know. I mean, that's kind of what I see. I know that there's always those people out there that are like, oh, the Lord struck them down because of their immorality or whatever. Like, come on, guys, really? Um, really, really. I mean, people want to go there. They always want to go there, though. They always want to go there, and make it some weird, you know, judgment. Um, and even if that was the case, because I don't know, who am I don't have that kind of I don't believe that way. I don't believe that way, but I don't also know like the inner workings of the entire universe to a point where I can say that there's no angry God out there. Like, I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that that's, you know, that's 100% accurate either, you know. But even if it was, you know, these people still have a loss. There is still risk. There are people that are still displaced. There are people that are homeless. There are people who are actively losing their homes right now. And there are people that need help, you know. You see the equestrian types, you know. I was just talking to a friend the other day, and I was kind of describing, because I saw this news story about in Rancho Palos Verdes how they found some body parts and all that kind of stuff, and I was kind of explaining how Rancho Palos Verdes is, like, kind of to try to like give a picture of it to people who don't really understand it. And I was explaining, like, yeah, it's like a different kind of world. Like, people up there, there's horse trails. People have horses on their property. Some of them do. You know, there's beachfront properties. There's those, you know, cliffside mansions. There's, you know, just beauty up there. You know, I don't really look at it like, oh, those rich people. It's like, it's beautiful. You know, it just to think that like human beings have like some kind of like insight and talent and artistic ability to even create properties that look like that. Like, I don't get jealous about it, but I know that there is like there is a darker side to wealth, but not all wealthy people are actively like involved in like that darker side. I mean, a lot of us are employed by these wealthy people. A lot of us wouldn't have jobs if these business owners and corporations didn't have these businesses. You know, we can crap on all of these, you know, tycoons and all that, but we use their services. We use their stuff. You know, we buy stuff on Amazon Prime. We use Facebook. People buy freaking Teslas. people want to hate on Zuck and Elon Musk and want to hate on all these people, but it's like, I get it. I'm not saying they're perfect. You know, they do wrong too, but we still buy their stuff, you know, and it's a part of our economy. Like, you know, I think it's possible to like hold space for both sides, you know, that there is kind of that schemy nastiness that comes out of some people, but there are also those people who create good, and I wouldn't want to say it's fair to lump them all in to the same group. But when you look at when when I was talking to my friend and I'm talking about, like, yeah, I've got friends who like have horses up there, and just describing the area, like they don't have a lot of street lights. Some of the beach properties are residential parking only. Like you have to have like a residential parking permit. Like and that's Palos Verdes. That's not Malibu. These aren't even the same places. Like Palos Verdes is just a lot closer to me, so I go there more. But Malibu almost has a similar vibe, but there's a lot less. Like Pacific Palisades and Malibu are more, and Hollywood Hills. They've got the hills, they've got the mountains, they've got those windy roads up the hills. Those like there aren't that many ways down some of these hills, and there is a bit of a comparison. Like I live close enough to areas like that I can go more regularly, and I was just describing it to somebody that I don't know if they'd ever been there. So I was kind of like saying, oh yeah, it's kind of like almost like Malibu, but not like the same thing. And it's not quite the same thing. It's in like a different area of LA. It's not, it's whatever. But I remember saying that, and I was talking about like how people up there have horses and stuff, and like there's peacocks that live up there, and there's all kinds of like wild parrots and stuff. Like it's there are parts of LA that are just so interesting. That are just like the people that live there and the lives they live doesn't really look much like anybody else's life that you would think when you think of LA. But it's a part of our culture out here, to have the ultra wealthy. That's a big part of LA culture, and a lot of us, I'm proud of those people. I don't know all of them. I don't know if some of them are bad people, you know. I'm pretty sure a lot of them are good people too, you know. And they fund a lot of things, the economy of Los Angeles alone is it's just hard to even understand how within the distance that's not even too far, if you don't consider traffic, you could go from those hillside cliffside mansions, 4-story, 3-story, $11 million mansions with beachside like private stairs down to like the ocean, and then drive over to Skid Row within the same hour, and maybe not an hour, it depends on traffic, but within the same hour, and see people that literally have nothing too. And it's like, it's just crazy to think that exists still within the same county, and that's all just like north of even where I'm at. I'm south of all that, and I'm still in LA, so it's like LA is gigantic, and there's a lot of diversity, and you can't have the good without the bad. You can't have you I mean, out here we have the wealthy, we have the poor, we have everybody in between. And I don't really crap on the wealthy. I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people, but I don't know, there was something about that comment, how that guy in the video was saying, homeless, druggy people, and I'm just thinking like, well, aren't those people homeless too? Those people are homeless. Those people who just got their houses burned down are homeless people. But one thing, and I know what he was saying. I know Like sometimes if you are interacting with someone, you can kind of tell like something's up with this person. I get that. I'm not completely like out of touch with reality. It's very possible that they might have been homeless druggies or something. It's very possible, but I would just be careful to try not to make those types of statements without really knowing, because I think it spreads the potential for prejudice, and then people take those ideas and they're like, oh, the homeless. But when people say the homeless, what they're usually talking about is like definitely an income divide, people without resources, people without anything. And you don't know someone's position. I know plenty of people who on the outside, I can't tell you how many people I grew up around that on the outside, they were those families with the mansions up in Palos Verdes, or those families with the mansions, where you go to the parties at their house and you're like, wow, their freaking closet is like as big as my bedroom, and it's like, you know, I was at a friend, I can't, we went to, I've told this story before, I think. I went to a friend's house, probably my 20s, maybe 30s, but probably my, I don't know, let's call it let's call it late 20s. Let's say I was like 27. Went to one of my friend's houses, my friend's family's house. I think it was like their uncle and aunt's house. You know how Thanksgiving, sometimes you party hop, and so like, on holidays, probably around like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., because my family would usually eat lunch for the holidays, and I'd go out with my friends around 7, 8. We might go to a movie, because there used to be really good movies on for like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I went up, my friend's like, this is the address, come on over. And I'm trying to call, and my phone doesn't work in Palos Verdes. I don't know if it was in Palos Verdes or Rolling Hills Estates, but one of those two, like, types of areas. Look them up if you want to see what they look like. But I was in one of those types of areas, and I'm, calling from the outside, and, nobody's answering. I probably don't have cell service. And, I start knocking, we're knocking at the door, and like knocking and knocking and knocking forever. We're knocking forever. Oh no, that's what it was. We were knocking at first. We were knocking and knocking and knocking, and nobody was coming. And you see a door by the sidewalk, you think this is the front door, and we think we're knocking on the door of a house. And I think I did have self-service. I think I'm wrong, because I think I called after knocking for a while, and we're like, why aren't they coming? They knew we were coming. Why aren't they coming to the door? Because I'm there with other people. I don't remember who else was with me, but I'm there with at least one or two other people. And I call my friend, who I know is inside their aunt and uncle's house in there, and I'm like, hey, we're like outside, can you come let us in? We're at the door. And she's like, okay. And she's like, well, I'm at the door. And I'm like, well, maybe we have the wrong address. And she's like, oh, wait, I think I hear you guys. And she comes and opens the door, and we're there, and the first thing I see is this gigantic courtyard. Like this massive, I don't even know how to explain it, but you had to like walk a distance to get to the front door of this house. We didn't know that we were knocking on the gate of the house, and so they couldn't hear us because they're inside the house. That's like, I don't know what distance, let's call it, probably on average, if you would look at like a residential neighborhood, like the distance you would take from like your front door to walk almost like across the street to your neighbor's door, it felt like it was maybe that distance, like a street's width distance, like from like behind one sidewalk to behind the other sidewalk at least. Like it was far enough that you couldn't really hear knocking if you were indoors. And so that's about, that just describes, like kind of what some of these houses are, and like how they are and stuff. It's like, it's a whole world, that's like not, but a lot of us who are in LA know people or have known people that have those types of properties. And when you have relationships with people like that, you learn, like, just because they're multi-million dollar, multi-millionaires, doesn't mean they don't have issues, doesn't mean they don't have problems. I had friends with adult family that was that way, and some of them had parents that were on drugs, some of them had parents that were always in debt, um, and were always just like losing all their money and just like blowing their family's money and just really bad with money or whatever. They were just they would do like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, just because it looks like somebody has a lot and it seems like, oh, if I look on Zillow, this house is worth all this money, it doesn't mean that those people have money. They might have no money in their bank. They might be negative in their bank account. Yeah, maybe they have access to credit and loans. Maybe they know people who could give the money, or maybe they have things that are worth money that they could sell, or whatever that looks like. Maybe they could get the money, maybe. But some people also don't have that. Like if you've watched the OC, if you've seen that show, I guess, spoiler alert, it's about a wealthy family who apparently takes in someone who's from Chino that they think is like, ew, like they think it's like a bad area or whatever. It's not. It's Chino is relatively pretty cool. Like there's nothing wrong with Chino. Um, but they make it sound like there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong with even like Watts, Compton, South Central, I mean Inglewood, whatever. There's nothing wrong with it. I'd say if I have to say that something's wrong with it, there's definitely inequality baked into those types of areas, um, with systemic issues and everything. So I would say I can't say there's no problem with it. There's not zero issue with it, but if you live there, if you're from there, if you hang out there, if you know people there, there's nothing wrong with somebody living in those places, you know. But sometimes, people get judgmental and they think, oh, you live in a place where we expect that you don't have any money, you know, people will judge you on that. People judge you on where you live. Unfortunately, people will judge you. Not all people, but it does happen. If you tell people you're from some certain place versus another certain place, in LA, that is like a thing. People do want to know where you're from, and it means something. When you say you're from this area, when you say you're from that area, people are kind of sizing you up and like, all right, I kind of know what that means. It's just kind of how it is out here. Like, people are very territorial and proud of their areas, proud of their culture, their heritage, the areas they're raised in, the areas they move out of and move into. People have a lot of pride about their city and everything. And I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting, at the least. It's interesting to see. I can't even imagine how affected people are, because I'm affected and it's not even like directly like on my doorstep, you know. I think the only time we really had any real, well, other than September 11th, because we're coastal, we had some scares then, you know. And then, if you guys remember when there was supposed to be that tsunami coming through LA or whatever, off the coast of Japan, when there was a tsunami, and then it was like headed this way or something. And then when they told us there was a hurricane or something not that long ago, but I literally had to ask my friend who moved to the East Coast. I literally had to ask him what a hurricane was, because I didn't even know. I was like, what? Like, this was before that even. I was like, I keep hearing about hurricanes out there. Like, what's a hurricane? Like, we don't have that, you know? Like, we have earthquakes and we have fires and we have crime, you know? Like, we don't really worry about too much else. Well, I guess we have landslides and flooding and stuff, but I don't know. There's not a place on this earth that's untouched by nature. But all we can really do once it starts happening is band together and try to help as much as we can, helping however you can. Even if you're not putting money, it doesn't mean that you're not providing value. Just even if you want to give some positive, affirmations and love and compassion with your words, to people online, and just, just putting something on your social media that's just nice, words of encouragement for people, or reposting, some of the resources or something like that, that are accurate. Um, that's plenty to help. Somebody's gonna see that and be like, oh, like, this will help someone. LA is like one of the social media capitals of the world. I mean, a lot of, the social media companies have, like, their headquarters out here. A lot of podcast studios are out here. A lot of YouTubers even moved out here. I don't know how long ago. Like, it's just, LA's got a lot of reach. It's not an area that people don't tune into, even if you're not really tuning into it and, like, logging into direct LA content. A lot of the celebrities that people love their movies and love their acting and love their radio presence and love their, the content that they provide, the comedy, like Mae Martin, Fortune Feimster, Tig Notaro, you got bands like Muna, you've got all these, content creators and musicians and people who live in LA that live closer to those areas, if not in those areas, I'm not sure if Mae Martin just bought a house. It sounded like Mae Martin just had bought a house, and I thought there was some, I thought it was in Malibu, and I thought that they said, that I don't know about that house specifically now, but I'm just saying, like, it wasn't that long ago, because I listened to the Handsome podcast, and I think Mae Martin was talking about either near the end of 2024, maybe in December of 2024, depending when it was posted or recorded, that they had purchased a house. And because I remember Tig Notaro or someone else saying, like, do you have insurance for, I can't remember what it was, for like landslides, because I guess Mae Martin bought one of those houses near a cliff. And it's like, you think of stuff like that, it's like, there are people that I literally follow their content online, that have houses in these areas, and their content, is what I entertain myself with on a regular basis. And just to even think that there's, like, YouTubers out there that I'm like, dude, like, I love their stuff, and they're dealing with a lot of stuff. A lot of the people I follow are from LA or moved to LA quite a while ago and have, like, established as young adults, kind of a career out here. And I've seen these people build themselves from vlogging, from simply just vlogging, to now they're, pretty established and opening up, like, festivals and concerts and, entertainment for the rest of us, like club events and all kinds of stuff, that people are now, promoting and involved with. People that came out here to kind of make a name for themselves, that I've been following since their very first YouTube videos. There's a lot of those people that are struggling right now, and it's it's encouraging to see that a lot of those people are out there volunteering, and trying to be helpful. But I don't know. It's a lot. I wanted to go live on my Hempication YouTube, but or Hempication Instagram, because that's kind of the only place I do go live. I don't remember if it's Hempication or Hempication 420, but either way, that's the only place I really go live. But I don't know. Usually I'm taking a little vape break, and I don't really feel like vaping because my throat's already messed up, and I don't really know if I can really go outside and record right now, because the air quality in the house is, like, way better than it is. Like, I noticed it immediately once I open the door, it's like completely smoky outside. So I don't want to like get to a point where I'm coughing and coughing and coughing. I'm already coughing as it is, kind of, but I'm just taking it easy so it doesn't get too bad. My nose is definitely running. I'm like sniffling a little bit. Um, didn't sleep that good, but got a good nap in, and you know, I didn't really get to work out, yesterday. Not yet today. Before I go to sleep, I'm probably gonna get in some good stretching and just do a little bit of light lifting. I really wanted to go over to the pier, but that's kind of one of my favorite places near me. But I'm just gonna avoid it for today. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be out in the morning at least. So I'm gonna feel it out early morning Friday because I don't know how Friday traffic's gonna get. It usually gets pretty crazy. Last Friday traffic was insane, and I nearly lost my mind. And so I told myself, as much as I can, Fridays I'm gonna kind of avoid things. There's a rave in San Pedro on Saturday. I really want to go. I don't know if I will, but I really want to go. That's my self-care, is like going to raves. Some of my self-care, it's not like the only thing I do, but I like it. I enjoy myself. I enjoy going. So I might go. I've already got a free pass to go, so I might go. Maybe not. I don't really know yet, but I'm just playing it by ear. Those are kind of my plans for the next couple days or so. Do some volunteering, post some stuff online, see if I go live or not. I probably won't. If I do, I don't know. If I do, it'll be available to watch later. I don't go live that much, and I don't know if I'm gonna be all like I don't want to be all like emotional on camera. Like I don't really know how I'm kind of like teetering on like I feel fine, but I kind of like, depending on how things keep going, I could see that I might not feel fine for that long. Like it was hard seeing that footage when the smoke cleared and they finally showed areas of those cities that were just leveled, and you see the occasional building, the occasional house standing, and everything around it is just gone, just rubble, just completely demolished. Like that fire was it was merciless, and I'm glad to hear that a lot of people got out. That's always been one thing that super worries me about LA is the traffic. And we saw that firsthand, where it's like people trying to get out of these areas is completely gridlocked and nobody's moving. You see areas where there are people, newscasters standing there at intersections talking, and the whole time they're talking, you don't even see the cars move at all. It's like they're not moving at all. And you gotta have a full tank of gas. Like, how are you even gonna like get out? And we all know, anyone who's been to LA, you know how it is. You're either trying your best to dodge traffic, and grateful to all the powers that be if you don't get stuck in traffic somewhere. But usually you're in traffic. It's not uncommon to be in some kind of traffic, if not just if you're driving at those rush hour times. You're in traffic almost all the time, and to have that on top of an urgent need, on top of things not working, you've got power outages, you've got all kinds of stuff that's not working properly, water shortages, and people are trying to get to somewhere where they can be safe and comfortable, you know, um, and people having to leave their cars on the side of Sunset and some streets, where, the bulldozers just had to come and just shove the cars out of the way, because people were like, it's easier to walk because we're not going anywhere, and that's one of my fears with LA, is that you cannot really get out of this city unless you got a head start on everybody else. Like, I was talking to a friend about it. I was like, if anything goes down, I don't know if leaving would be Like, I talk about, sometimes I'm podcasting when I'm driving around the city on an average day. And I even tell people, I'm even talking on here, like, I need to get back before the schools get out. Because it's a difference between it taking 3 minutes for me to drive down my street and like 30 minutes just to get onto my street sometimes. It's like, God forbid, there's school traffic on top of graduation traffic, on top of construction, on top of an accident, all in the same time period. Like, you're not going anywhere. And I might live at the end of the block, and you're just stuck in that. And that's not even urgent. That's when it's like a temporary situation, and not every single person, like, these people all have a direction of what they're trying to do. They're trying to pick up their kids and go home, or park in the school and go into school. They're not trying to do anything else. Everyone's trying to do the same organized thing. Like, imagine if everybody's trying to leave, everyone's trying to get into the gas station, everyone's trying to get into the store, everybody's trying to do all this stuff on top of driving and all that. And everybody in the whole area, you see how densely populated these areas are. Like I've said before, a lot of times housing's so expensive, it's usually more than one income that people have for these homes. So you have multiple people in a family, maybe even multiple cars being driven by a family, all trying to evacuate at the same time in one of the most densely populated areas. In that area, the areas of the city where this has happened in aren't even the most densely populated. Like down the hills from these areas, and like the closer you get to the bottoms of these hills, those areas are very, very densely populated, over, almost even more so. And you see how there's not even that much space between the houses as it is. Some of these areas just have a lot of houses right next to each other. And not all of these areas are like incredibly affluent, but I don't know. It's just a lot, it's a lot to take in. I just decided, I'd rather do something creative about it, volunteer. I've gotten my rest for the day, and I'll be up for a while this afternoon online, just banging out some stuff a little bit. But I don't know if this is helpful to anybody. I'm not trying to rant and stress people out. Just kind of trying to throw some ideas out there. We're doing good as far as our safety. The people I know are all safe. I've heard from everybody that I needed to hear from. So they're all safe. I don't know if all of their houses are safe. Some people I'm really scared to ask because I think I know the answer. Unfortunately, but it's not a lot of people. But even so, I think those people will be fine. Maybe I think this is gonna take a financial, mental, and emotional toll on a lot of people. They might have their physical bodies intact. I think for the most part. I mean, I do have a feeling, unfortunately, this death toll is gonna go higher than the 2 or 5 or 7 people that they've spoken about. I think I don't know. Because seeing how many houses were affected, it's hard to think that many people got evacuated safely and to where. It's hard to really think that is accurate, that all those people got out. I would just hope that they did. I would hope that they would even come back and say, oh, there aren't even 7 people that died. Like, we found them, they're all okay. Like, best case scenario. But, to have that many houses and that many people, I don't even know. Because a little bit is being revealed at a time. And the fires aren't even done. And it's like, we still got to get through the wind. We've still got to get through Friday. They've still got to get these fires contained. They're not even all contained. And then on top of that, we've got to make sure that there aren't any arson, any arson crimes that are coming up where people are starting fires on purpose. You know, that's the kind of stuff you can't guarantee that that's not going to happen, or you can't predict. Nobody can. So, everybody just be safe, stay safe. Fellow Angelinos, just stay safe out there. Don't do anything that you don't have to do unless you're trying to help people, unless you're trying to like make moves that are gonna kind of help yourself and your family to get safer. You know, conserve your energy where you can, because you never know when you're gonna need it. Don't be running on the last fumes of your energy, because if you need to kind of be somewhere and drive out in a bunch of traffic, you need to be alert and aware so you're not causing accidents and causing more traffic. You just need to make sure that you're staying as focused as possible on the necessities, and think, don't over worry yourself, but think, try to think rationally about what you're going to need and what you would need, for yourself and your family and your friends. I can't tell people to let people stay in their house, but if you're comfortable with that and you know people that are in need, that would probably help them. Being someone who's worked in mental health for a long time and used the 211 system, I can tell you, it's, unless the few people who started the process of contacting 211 for those Airbnbs, and other than the people who started that process early, it's going to take a while for for the people who are coming in later to try to get those Airbnbs. It's going to take a while, because the systems get backed up. Any system that you're calling, call them right when they open. Don't wait even 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, because you might not get through some of these lines if they aren't 24-hour lines. You might be on hold for a really long time. Make sure your phones are charged. I'll be honest, a lot of these types of sites, when they say they're going to call you back, they don't call you back. Especially if you call them, say, 4 p.m. and they're ending at 5 p.m., a lot of them might not call you back. And then they might not circle back the next day. You gotta call them when they open and talk to a live person. A lot of these systems, I can't speak specifically to anything right now, but I just know I've called legal aid before, I've called 211 before, I've called a lot of these sites before to help clients in need at various times over the last 9 years, and a lot of the times it's really hard to get through. If it's IHSS or some of these other sites, for all types of support that people might start to need right now, a lot of these lines are hard to get through. Once they've opened, their lines are flooded, and after a certain point, they just stop answering. I mean, if you've got like job loss and things like that, you might consider where you're getting your health insurance. You might be able to sign up for CalFresh, like food stamps types of situation. It might take a while to be able to get to that status, because I think they would check how much money you're making. You might qualify for some kind of unemployment. Again, those things take a while. But you gotta think, there are systems in place that can help at least some people. But you gotta know how to at least get through the system. You gotta call when they open. Or else you're never gonna get through the line. Same with the IRS. You gotta call them when they open. You can't wait till they've been open for a few hours. You might never get through, or they might never call you back, even if they say they're gonna call you back. So that's the reality of it. That's what I know firsthand. When I used to work at these jobs, I already knew for a fact, what was going to happen. Certain lunchtime hours, certain places have certain places don't even answer the phone after lunch. So if you're even trying to get in touch with them after like 11 o'clock, they say their lunch is 11:30 to like 1:30. They're not answering even at 11 o'clock, and then after 1:30, they're not answering calls anymore. And then you have till maybe 5, and then they just don't exist until the next morning. It's like, that's pretty common. Um, I mean, how many people live in LA? There's a lot of people, and how many people are affected by these fires? That's a lot of people, you know, and so people are needing more services than usual, you know. All these types of people working in these sites, the types of sites that I left from working in, you know, it's times like this, and I'm glad that I don't work there. There's no way I'd be able to like deal with that right now. But a lot of people I know who work in mental health have patients that are affected right now, and you know, I know a lot of people who are kind of clergy. I'm pretty sure they're you know helping people out. You know, you know, um, but yeah, I think uh, you just do what you can. Do what you can to stay safe and to be supportive. You know, don't overextend yourself if you really can't do it. Um, you know, track your own energy. Make sure you're kind of like doing the basics. Don't strain yourself at any end. You know, because you might need to be helping somebody else out. You might need to be helping yourself or someone else within the next days. You know, so you want to make sure you conserve your own energy just for your own peace of mind. Do what you can, at least on that end. Um, and I guess that's about it for now. If I have more to say later, I'll chime back in. But I don't even know. Like I don't want to be like making people sad or whatever. But you know, I had some interesting topics I just kind of wanted to talk about, like homelessness status, and just in general, just some basics that other people might not really be talking about the same stuff that I'm saying. There's a lot of other information out there, um, but you know, I'm just sharing kind of like the little tidbits that I'm kind of thinking about, um, from what I know. Like I can't tell you how to save your home. I don't know anything about that. You know, I don't know how to deal with the insurance. I don't know how to deal with, you know, like where specifically you need to go as far as an address for an evacuation site and all that. Like all those things, you can find that information pretty easily elsewhere. But you know, I hope I've offered some ideas that are of some support to some people. And if not, um, well, I was talking about them because I thought it would be helpful. But just you know, I just kind of want to give like a kind of put things in perspective the way, kind of explain the way I've been kind of looking at it, you know, not really practicing jealousy about other people's wealth, you know, trying to focus on being productive and volunteering, trying to really put yourself in someone else's shoes, even though it's not fully possible to do. But you know, all of us, all of us has something more than somebody else. You know, there's always going to be somebody who doesn't have what you have, and you have more than them, even if you don't think even if you don't think so. Most of us are in that position. Many of us maybe we really don't have anything at all, but I'd say most people kind of have, you know, like if you ate today all your meals and you're not super hungry and you're not overly dehydrated and you don't have no money in your bank, you have something, you know. Um, you know, it's even hard to think about, um, you know, the schools, you know, the kids who go to school, who eat breakfast and lunch there, that, you know, might be having food insecurity issues because, you know, maybe their families don't have the money and they're not expecting to be feeding their kids breakfast and lunch every day until their school gets rebuilt, you know, or whatever, even if they're doing remote classes or whatever. Or some people don't have internet to do remote classes. You know, if you were, you know, UCLA, if you're a UCLA student, college students don't all have money. Just because you go to UCLA doesn't mean you have money. trust me, I know, I've known people who go to UCs that are living in their cars. That's not uncommon. It's like people don't always have what they seem like they have. And that's kind of, I guess, the message that I have is, have compassion with people. You don't really know what they're going through unless they tell you. And even then, you just have to trust what they're saying. But, you know, you don't really know somebody's situation. People always want to present on the surface like they're doing good. And most of us are pretty good at presenting like we're doing better than we are. Let's be real. We're pros at it. People aren't going to be blasting all over the internet that they're broke and they really need help with money so that they can buy food for their kids. Like, people don't want to be in that position. People don't want to put themselves out there like that. You never really know what kind of position somebody's in. And I know that there are people that I know right now that are in those positions. And it's hard to think, that there are people that I may have just hung out with, in recent months during the holidays that are out there struggling, without much support. They might not even have cell reception or power, to their devices to even reach out to people, to even ask for support even if they wanted to. So, you gotta just think about, there are people out there, that don't need the judgment right now. They need help. They don't need judgment, you know. Um, don't kick someone while they're down. Don't judge somebody that you don't really know their full situation. Um, like, because I'm seeing a lot of that online with people just talking about, oh, like, these people had this money or those people had that money or these people, whatever, you know. But we all know too that, the government and politicians, this is going to be treated differently because of the populations of people affected. We know that, that's a given. They might get special support that I've never seen Uber and Lyft taking people to shelters, and all that kind of stuff, or Airbnbs being used, for evacuated people. These are different types of resources, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have those resources, but I can't help but wonder if this happened in South Central or Watts or Compton, would the support look different? You know, I think it might look different, and that kind of worries me too, because it's like if some of these other areas get set ablaze, it's like there's not going to be a lot of equality in how people are treated, as far as resources that are already limited and already hard to come by. The city is a beast. I've said it before. This freaking city is a beast. It's a machine that will suck you in and it will suck you dry. And, it's easy to get your resources depleted out here just paying for gas and groceries and rent. Money out here goes fast. Our gas is over $4 a gallon. It's been over $4 a gallon. Food, I can't even tell you how much I spend on groceries sometimes. Like, it's insane. Like, usually what I have to do is I have to, like, calculate how much food I'm buying and then go back and put back stuff that I'm like, okay, I really don't maybe need this, because it costs a lot. That's a lot of people I know shop like that. It's like everything costs a lot. But I gotta get off of talking on here for now. Just just want to say I love you, LA, and everybody in this city. You know, stay strong, hang tight, practice compassion, be nice to each other. Don't start fires, you idiots. Don't start fires. Don't start them on purpose. And I don't know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are going to come out and stuff too, but I'm kind of interested in capturing footage, now, early, like while it's early in some of the earlier footage, because sometimes, as we know with algorithms, a lot of stuff gets erased from history. They start erasing the information off the internet. I talked about before how, there were certain things on the Olympics. I was watching breakdancing, and there's certain stuff in the Olympics you can't find it hardly anywhere at all on the internet, on American internet. You have to get like a VPN through like Canada or something and like find it on some other random app, you know. And I'm pretty sure, when it comes to this type of information, it change. Yeah, there's some information, some stories that you just can't find after a while. You'll look them up and you'll be reading them, and then like a couple weeks later, it's like you can't find those stories anywhere. And so, right now I just want to document and capture what I can of what's important to me as far as like the stories that I'm following with some of this stuff, because I know that information is going to be hard to find later on. I'm not obsessing over it, but I'm just kind of certain things I'm interested in getting updates about. I'm kind of trying to track it from the beginning. The only piece that I have found that I thought was interesting, really, well, not the only, but just the whole thing about the insurance, and then how they were saying that there were going to be high winds, and they talked about the risk of wildfires and before the fires even started, and then they started, and now there's people having the issues with the insurance already. And so and that's probably going to be a continued story that people are going to find, like they do with all these disasters. I mean, Hawaii rebuilt? They haven't rebuilt it, and now we're over here in LA, and really, are they going to rebuild it? I hate to say that I don't think they will. I hate to say that. We're getting a lot of sirens right about now, but I mean, as you guys know, when I record, we're always getting sirens, so I'm not gonna like freak about it, but I do need to get off of here and go do something else, because I can't. I gotta go balance my time a little bit this evening. So thanks for listening. I will see if I'm posting more, as long as my sinuses and my throat are doing good, and as long as I'm not in some urgent situation where I'm trying to like get to safety and prioritizing that. I'll just be recording on here when I can, and hopefully it's helpful ideas. I don't know. I don't even know. It's kind of just my own streams of consciousness. But alright, guys, hang in there, LA, and thanks for listening.